tires. The one thing everybody is on every single day is tires. Whether you're on a plane, a bus, going an Uber, driving your own car, you are on tires at some point during the day. Hello, welcome to Brake Check. I'm Craig.
And I'm Bryan.
And this is episode something or another, also known as 15. So thanks for joining us. And it's been a little bit, but life's been coming at us a little hard, Bryan.
A little bit, yeah.
But that's okay. That happens. So you deal with it, you roll on, and that's just the world we live in right now. COVID.
Yeah, well, that too, yeah.
And so, but...
Wait, are you implying the podcast is delayed due to semiconductors and COVID and supply chain?
I'm implying, here's what I'm suggesting and telling people they should do. If you are delayed in anything or running late or just behind on something, kids, adults, business leaders, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You've got the greatest excuse ever in the history of man right now, and that's called COVID. So just say, COVID, I'm so sorry, there's been delays. No one will question you, and I think we've got that for another good few years, maybe.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's probably true, and, you got to take the bad with the bad, and you might as well use that excuse while you can.
But you know what it hasn't delayed?
What's that?
It has not delayed you and I driving some vehicles between the last few podcasts we've done. So, let's talk about some of the cars we've been drying. I don't think we've been drying then. Driving. Yeah, that's it. Driving. And one of those is so good that you talked a family member into buying one. And so that's the one I'd like to start off with. Bryan, that is the Toyota Supra. Let us know all about it. What did you think? Why was it good? Was it bad? It was good enough that a family member bought it. So go ahead.
Yeah, so affectionately referred to as the BMW Supra, as a lot of people on the internet like to say. We had that car on loan from Toyota and did an episode that's live now if y'all want to check that out. And fortunately, my in-laws were in town, definitely on purpose since we had that car at that time. They've been cornering me for a while. When are you getting the Supra? When is it going to be there? Can we please go for a ride in it? Yada, yada, yada. And these are my in-laws, and they had a quite beautiful Infiniti Q60. 3-liter twin turbo, which is the power plant in the next Z, the Nissan Z. Great engine and a very long wheelbase. Actually, pretty good car. They loved it, and they had one ride in the Supra and immediately said, "What Infiniti?" It was an easy sell, Craig. I got to be honest. I've pushed a lot of people in life to make better automotive choices, and I had nothing to do with this one. Actually, it just happened. We went for a ride in it, and my father-in-law heard the stereo, and which I wasn't totally in love with, but it was the sub in there really spoke to him quite well. And he said, "Yep, I'm convinced. All you have to do now is talk my wife into it." And I was tasked with that. So, what do you do, Craig, in that situation? What do you do to talk your mother-in-law into a 2-seat, let's be honest, more than 400 horsepower, turbocharged, German-based, Japanese sports car? So
toss her the keys, right?
Well, no, not that. But you take her for a ride, and she feels the G-forces, and that's it. Turns out my mother-in-law is a psychopath of a driver behind the wheel, just like me, and loves the G-forces, and said, "Okay, I like it." That was it. And they went out the next week and bought it. That was it.
Incredible. And so we did get to spend some good time in that, and both of us did. I think a fair amount of good time in that car, and I'm not even going to touch on or get into it's a BMW, Toyota. Well, whatever. We talked about that in the video as well.
Yeah, we got into that in the video.
But I mean, it didn't matter, did it?
No. In fact, we hit this in the video, and look, in today's, and I'm not going to break into all this again, but basically, this car would not exist without collaboration. And look, they went to a great partner that makes great performing cars. The biggest thing Toyota did was benchmark BMW's components to their same standards, make sure it passed quality control. And guess what? It did. So those that have all these BMW faux pas, keep in mind, BMW's not in the business of pissing people off. They're in the business of selling cars. And their quality control has definitely come up. Is it the best up there? I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's not what it was in the mid-2000s. So that was enough for Toyota. It's going to be enough for me. And the reality is that thing was a powerhouse. I mean,
oh man, it was incredible.
It steamrolled, man. And in fact, we had the C8 Vet, which we kept making. There's two cars you and I kept calling out when we drove the Supra. Was the Mach 1 Mustang, which we had previously, like recently had, and the C8 Corvette that we had earlier in the year.
Mm-hmm.
And you made a good point, and that the C8 is still the best Grand Tourer between that and the Supra, between the two-seaters. The Mustang is probably the overall daily livable Grand Tourer, and that it's comfortable and has an actual backseat. You could throw a kid back there if you had to. But I brought up a good point that the Supra is probably the quickest thing we've had over 100 miles an hour, at least in sensation. I know the C8 Vet is still a notably quicker car on paper. It just is. 0 to 100, nothing beats the C8. That ZF 8-speed dual clutches, not ZF, sorry, the Borg Warner Tremec. All the transmissions, it's Tremec 8-speed dual clutch, is incredible. But over 100, that Supra just feels like it's 20 to 80. 100 to a very high number, it feels just like 20 to 80. It's incredibly fast. It never stops. And if it didn't have a speed limiter, it would just keep going forever. I just don't know that in the real world you would ever find a situation that you would just run out of road infinitely, is what I'm getting at. You would never find a wind block that would actually stop you if there was no governor.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. It was an incredible piece of machinery. It was fast. I enjoyed my time in it. I'm as much of a speed freak as you, but I was impressed and kind of wowed by it. And you're right. It's a good car. Maybe those aren't the most normal comparisons, the C8 and the Mach 1, but you start looking at pricing and they're actually not that far off from each other, really.
They really are.
Maybe the Supra is the value leader out of that. Maybe, arguably. I don't know, maybe the Mach 1.
Ooh, man. Look, that gets back to use case again.
Yeah.
And I know that you and I talked off camera about that a lot. The Supra is an incredible value. Just for $50K, mid-50s is really what that car costs. There's not a whole lot of options you can put on it.
Right.
That's so much speed for the money. I mean,
it is.
It's a low 12-second quarter-mile car. And guess what? The Mach 1 is about a half a second slower in all metrics. And in the seat of the pants, it feels like that. It's clearly not as fast. But you then go for, look, when you buy the Mach 1 the way you want it spec'd, it's more expensive than the Supra.
Right.
So you've got to be honest with yourself. Is this a weekend play car, or is this I'm going to drive this? And the difference is you can go coast to coast in the Mustang with no regret. Yeah. The Supra, your neck's going to hurt at the end of that, I think, for most people.
And so that's a great comparison. So your money, you gotta spend some coin, or just power rank them out of those three. How do you power rank them? Which one are you buying? And I know it's a use case thing, but
yeah, it is a use case thing for me because I do have two little ones. It'd be the Mustang, and mainly because there's a third pedal, and neither of the other two have that as an option.
Very fair point.
But both of the other two are incredible values. In fact, my son today said, "Daddy, where's that orange car?" He's young. He doesn't understand that these cars just come and go. We don't own them. But I thought to myself, what a value that thing is. Now, you can't get it for its MSRP anywhere.
No.
But if you could go down to your Chevy dealer and get it for $60,000,
oh, man, what a value!
Because it's not competing with Mustangs and Supras. It's competing with supercars, dude. That thing is quick. It looks phenomenal.
But you're right. You can't find it for that price. That's a real factor.
So for me, it's the Mach 1. Then in the real world, the Mach 1, then the Supra, then the C8, just because I can't afford the C8. I'll never will.
Yeah, no, fair point. So, and I'll say this. I love the Supra, but as much as I loved it, it's just the daily drivability of it would be a little exhausting. I took it on a pretty long trip to work one day on something I had to do, and I wasn't real comfortable and relaxed by the time I got home. And I was like, man, I'm glad I don't have to drive this any further than I do. So it tramlined a little bit. It's just really it's a high performance sports car. It'd be fun on the track. It really would.
Well, it was. We put it on the track. It was a blast.
I didn't have that feeling in the C8, and the Mach 1 was just, Mach 1's comfortable, and not everybody bugs you when you're driving around, whereas the C8, everybody bugs you. So
right.
And that's something to be considered. And speaking of vehicles where you get bugged everywhere you go, we currently are in a particular vehicle where that's happening in at least to one of us. I don't know if it's happened to you in your daily life, so I'm curious. And that vehicle is the 2021 Chevrolet Silverado Z71 Trail Boss Realtree package.
All right, you missed one. There's one thing you missed in there. You ready? I'm going to give you the whole thing.
Custom
2021 Chevy Silverado Custom Trail Boss Z71 Realtree Special Edition. It's so long that I couldn't put it in the YouTube description because it took the entire lineup.
Okay, so let's explain what this truck is. So this is really just it's a stripped Chevy. It's a custom. It's not the work truck. It's not the WT, but it's the custom, which is like the next thing up. It has a big old black grill on it. It says Chevrolet spelled out on it.
Think in Ford speak STX.
Yeah, very similar spec. So it doesn't have a lot of options on it, and I'll let you get into all of what it doesn't have. But exterior-wise, it's got the Z71 package, which gets you a 2-speed transfer case, and it gets you, I think maybe a skid plate, or maybe that's in the Trail Boss package. Trail Boss package, it gets you a 2-inch lift, and I think the skid plate. That's probably where I'm getting that. Yeah. And mud terrain particular tires on this one. You can get some dirt track all terrains on a smaller wheel. And then you get the Realtree package on that, which is some step bars, but also more importantly, Bryan,
stickers.
Well, yeah, stickers. Realtree timber camouflage on the very back panel of the bed. And yeah, it's just a sticker. It's a sticker. In fact, it's so obvious. The few people I did see it, they're like, "Oh, is that just a sticker? Can you peel it off?" My kids immediately asked me that. The sticker on the hood isn't on just right on one side. It's a little farther over on the passenger side than it is on the driver's side, and it drives me batty as I'm driving it.
Well, can I just tell you, I didn't bring that up the entire time because I was hoping you didn't notice it. But when I tried to land the drone when we shot this vehicle, I landed it on the hood. And that horseshoe was a great landing mark. It was easy to place it, but I saw it on the screen then, and noticed the lack of symmetry and went, no one's going to care about that. No one's going to notice that. And turns out you did. So
yeah. And so here's the thing. I'll give this truck credit. It is for whatever reason, that makes it a head turner. I think it's the lift. I think it's the tires, and then the camo just sets it off. Can
I caveat this a little bit? Because
hang on. Well, yeah, go ahead. I think
I'm going to ask you a question out of this because before we're both going to dive into this in a second. I know in our daily regions of work every day, we work in different areas. I'm in an urban setting, a little bit of corporate going on, a little bit of factory going on. You are in a rural setting. I would say very little corporate going on, still a factory going on, but different. Rural versus urban is what you're dealing with. So,
yes,
in a rural setting, you've taken all of our press vehicles out there, including the Vet and the Supra and the Mach 1, all these cool cars. Mm-hmm. You called me the first day you drove us out there. And what did you tell me, Craig?
It is getting more attention, I kid you not, than the Sebring Orange C8.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, but I believe you.
It's incredible. I mean, I couldn't believe it. So, but before that, though, I do want to get to... So, I want to dive into my experiences a little bit.
Okay.
What have you experienced in your more urban setting, corporate setting?
So, first of all, no one bats an eye at this at all.
Oh. Wait. Is it because the camo's working?
Yeah, they can't see it. That's why. They can't see it. I've lost this thing twice in the front yard. I just, where'd it go? I don't... There it is. There's a Realtree. I find the headlight and go, there's the truck. Now I know. No, all joking aside, we drove this thing around DFW last weekend. We went out to a lake nearby, and no one even looked at it. No one said anything. Mm-hmm. I looked at it several times and felt, to be totally honest with you, a little subconscious about it because Realtree is spelled out. It's not just the camo. It's spelled out with the buck horns.
Yes, it looks like you got it from Academy or Walmart, this truck.
Yes, and my wife actually said, I sent you to Academy to get lawn chairs. Did you buy a truck while you were there? And
so what happened when you brought it to me out and you pulling into my neighborhood?
I pulled in. Okay, I took it to you. We shot this thing early, based on timing for film schedule. And as I'm pulling into your neighborhood, there's a family on a Polaris side by side, And I come around the corner a little bit brisk, and the first thing I thought was, I've pissed these people off automatically because I'm driving and they're in something slow. That's how it always happens.
Which is what usually happens.
That's what usually happens. Even if I'm not speeding, there's always like, get off my lawn kind of thing. And they all look at me, they see the side of the truck, and they all wave with amazement like, what is that? Where do I get that? That must be $80,000. That's amazing. No deer are ever going to see that thing. This is the safety thing. It's just, they loved it. They freaking were drooling. And that doesn't happen in sports cars. Let me tell you that right now. Or any other truck. We've had a ton of trucks in that neighborhood. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, we've had bright blue, brand new F-150s that have just come out. No one's hardly seen them.
Right. 70 grand trucks, and no one was like, oh, it's a truck. Big deal.
Yeah. We've had King Ranches. We've had Rams. We've had just like
everything.
Yeah, but this, oh, baby. So let me pick it up from there.
Okay,
so you leave it with me. We take turns driving. I'm driving it to work. But before I drive it to work, the evening before, as I don't know, it was 8 o'clock at night. Sun's starting to set. Kids, man, Dad really wants some ice cream. All right, you know what? Let's go into town, a little town we live in, which is, by town I mean there's one gas station. Okay,
right.
Also known as the country store, quote unquote. So we head into the country store, and I was kind of bummed out. I was in my comfy shorts, my at-home sitting around the lounge chair shorts. I had my long socks on, my high socks on, and I had some loafers.
Wait, you mean you were dressed like a bum? You weren't bummed out like emotionally. You just were dressed like a bum.
I had my undershirt on, clearly an undershirt, and then my, let's just say, not so attractive spare glasses on because they're comfortable to watch TV with.
Okay.
And I rolled into town. I was leaving, and my youngest daughter wanted to come with me, and she had just gotten out of the shower. She's in her PJs. No problem. It's like, you know what? Come on, let's go. It'll be all right. So we get to the country store, and we get out, and my youngest daughter says, "Oh, Dad, I forgot my shoes." And I was like, "Oh, dang, you can't go without shoes." And I was like, we're already bummed out. And I'm like, we're going to the country store. It won't matter. Let's just go in. I think we'll maybe fit in with the crowd. So we go in. And I'm a little conscious of the way we're dressed. Like, man, I feel kind of bad. I don't want, we shouldn't do this, So getting our ice cream, we're checking out, and I'm thinking, I'm going to hear it. Someone's going to say something, can't believe, your girl's barefoot, whatever. We kind of make fun of being bummed out. Did any of that happen? No. Because you know what they saw when I pulled up? They saw
because the camo.
The super truck. They saw the super truck, and all he asked me was, "Hey, that's not a truck. What is that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's just a stripped Silverado." Well, I really like it. It looks good. And it was hilarious. So no comments on the way we were dressed, but the camo truck just got them excited. So that was entertaining. So that's my first experience with it.
Can I just bring up a few things that cracked me up about this? Because you and I kept making connections to other trucks we've driven, right? Because we drive a bunch of trucks doing this show. This is by about $20,000, the cheapest one we've had from a manufacturer on loan.
Yes.
Okay. And by the way, excluding the exterior and the looks, this is just a strip truck. And
that's all it is.
Right. And I'm going to get into a few things. Here's the options that you have. You have the 5.3 V8.
Yep.
Because the base motor is the 4.2 or 4.3 V6, which is somehow still in production. Well, it's been updated, but still, on paper, it's the 4.3 V6 has been with GM for 30 years. Like come on. It has the older 6-speed transmission in it, not the 8 or the 10.
Right. Yeah, not the 8-speed that they developed after the 6-speed or the 10-speed after that. No.
Right.
The 3 generations old transmission is in this sucker. Yeah, okay.
I drove a truck after high school that had this transmission in it. Just putting that out there. Okay.
Yes.
I've been out of high school for a little bit. So, and then on top of that, you have, as far as options, this one has 20-inch optional wheels.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about tires in a minute. That'll be the last time we talk about on this. And it has the multi-step back porch tailgate on it that has the flip and fold deal. And that's it. So being a custom, you have power windows and locks, air conditioning, and the small touchscreen with Apple CarPlay. And that's it. There's nothing else, man. There's no dual zone. There's no leather wrap steering wheel. There's no volume or radio controls on the steering wheel. There's no radar. There's no lane keep. There's no auto up on all the windows. There's only auto up on one window. There's no fog lights. There's no HID or LED lights.
Nope.
There's nothing. Anything. Yeah, there's an actual key, Craig. This is the first press car we've had with an actual key.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And so I got... I'm losing it here, right? So...
Right.
Now, granted, it has the camo package, which is $2,500, gives you the side steps and the decals. Since it's a custom and not the LT, it has the full grille that spells out Chevrolet instead of just the emblem, which I personally think God looks are subjective because I think it looks terrible. Not the truck doesn't look terrible, just that portion looks terrible. I don't like that part. You don't seem to have that problem. It's just me.
Nah.
But it's weird to me because, like I said, we have a lot of loaded products. We've cracked 120 grand with the Escalade. Remember that? That's based on this shared platform. Nobody looked at the Escalade. No one thought it was special. Nope. Even though we thought it was, no one got a blink. It had 22-inch wheels from the factory. It had all this stuff. It had the smart cruise and all this nonsense. And everyone thinks this is a superhero. They don't think my Raptor is less special. I've taken my Raptor out to your work, and no one thinks anything of it. It's just another Raptor. This thing, everyone's like, what is that? Where do I get it? And how many kids do I need to sell to make that happen? And I'm ready. Let's go.
It was incredible. And so, we're kind of making fun of all those lack of options, and we talked about this in the review, that's coming out. But in a weird way, one of the things this does is this makes this one of the most reliable new trucks you can buy today with a warranty. I mean, that's
seriously,
because there's nothing to break, and all those things we're kind of making fun of are less things to break. So it's kind of charming and kind of refreshing. But to your point, not what you would expect to turn heads and get people's attention. And so let me continue with my time with that and turning heads. So I drive it to work, and I'm just thinking it's just a Chevy truck. There's a lot of Chevy fans out there, just like there's Ford fans. There's all the fanboys, So all I'm thinking in my head is, well, the Chevy fanboys are going to like this one. It'll be interesting to see what they think about it.
Right.
And it'll be interesting to see what the Ford fanboys think. Okay, so I'm driving it. Unbeknownst to me, forgot all about it, didn't think about it. I went on the first day of dove season, and that may not sound like much for wherever you're listening to this podcast right now, but where I'm from, and where you and I are from, and where Texas. I work, in Texas, the first day of dove season is basically a holiday. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I mean, you literally can drive into work with the windows down, and all you will hear are gunshots everywhere.
Yeah.
So
shotguns in the distance.
Yes. So I didn't even think about that. So maybe that's why people were extra amped up. I didn't really think about that until after. But
because your truck matched their jacket. That's why.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Anyways, yes, I get to work and around town and stuff, and it is unbelievable the amount of people stopping me, asking me, talking to me about this truck. And I never knew how to react to them. The vet, I knew how to react. Like, okay, yeah, look, it's a cool car. I get it. Let them look at it and check it out. I'll answer any questions they got about it. I didn't know what to do with them. Like it's just a truck. There's a bunch of these. What do you? It's just what? I was so confused, but I was bombarded. Maybe because it was the first day of dove season. I don't know, but I could have been a freaking celebrity driving around in this thing, more so than I was in the blaze orange C8 Corvette. So
that cracks me up. Incredible. Yeah. You told me that story, and I was like, God, Craig, are you going to run for mayor of that town? I think you might be eligible.
If they'd had the election that day, I would have won by a landslide.
That is so funny. And look, I want to come back around to this thing. After we both spent some time with this, there's some things we love, some things we don't, and I'll be totally honest with you. This is one of the most refreshing. I think this is the most refreshing press car we've had.
It is.
I haven't had to turn off lane keep. I haven't had to go configure all this stuff on the screen. In fact, my wife was like, "Oh, I'm a little bit cold. I'm going to turn the fan up a little bit," and she turned the knob, and that was it. And it's like,
it's funny, as much as we kind of make fun of this truck, it is. You're right. Probably the most refreshing truck or vehicle we've had in a long time.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You know what was the most refreshing before that? The Chevy Colorado.
We did say that, didn't we?
We did.
In fact, I oozed about that truck for a long time because I was like, everything's where it should be and it works and it's like comfortable. I'm like, what is there not to like about this?
Yeah, I mean it's
a good
funny.
Point.
You simplify it and it's easy.
Yeah, look, and it doesn't have leather. It doesn't have ball chillers. It doesn't have heated seats. I'm going. It's better because of that. Like it's just
yes.
It's just straightforward. It's the most honest truck we've had, and it backs up my feeling that I've expressed in the past that when you add too much tech in the vehicle, it doesn't improve your experience. In fact, half the time that tech isn't working properly, or I'm having an issue with the tech on, or I haven't spent enough time with it to figure it out. And this is an example of when it's not there, I've immediately bonded with the vehicle quicker. Yep. And guess what? All that tech doesn't make you drive better.
No.
It just doesn't. And in fact, it makes you much more aware of what you're doing without that stuff getting in the way. Because with the driving stuff, the lane keeping, all that crap, there's sections where it's nice to have it and it works. But in my daily drive, at least, it's just in the way. It's like, who's driving? Am I driving, or is the computer driving? Right. And that was never a problem here. I loved it. Hats off to Chevrolet, honestly, for keeping something like this in their fleet that isn't loaded to the brim. Because we also get asked pretty routinely, hey, nice truck, I don't have $70,000 to spend.
Yeah.
And it's not just us. A ton of media outlets get this question of, can you please review a work truck?
And I wonder if maybe that was part of it. I don't know. I suspect that's not what was going on there. I think people thought this was way more. But But yeah, I think what you're alluding to is just there's no gimmicks, and you don't feel like you're being tricked with a gimmick that's just not that special. And that's
at all.
It's straightforward. It's not trying to trick you or put on a show. It's not putting on, as some people around here like to say, that it's not putting on airs. It just is what it is. So,
Totally.
Okay, but you wanted to say something about the tires before we.
Yeah. Okay, so as you know personally, I haven't really put this on the show very much. I've kind of had like a butt heads with Goodyear lately. And what I mean is that we've had a few, like, as we're driving press cars and we're driving, like, the Colorado that we had was on dirt tracks. I was appalled at how noisy those were for an all-terrain.
They were noisy.
They're very noisy. And granted, they look like a mud terrain. They've got paddles on that thing. So I'm sure there's a trade-off for that when you get in the mud. So, okay, it's a purpose-built thing. I get it. We get to this one. This has the optional 20s. This does come with dirt tracks on the 18-inch wheel. But
17s.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, this comes with 18s. Is the
does it 18s? Okay,
yeah,
I thought it was 17s.
Okay. The Colorado 17s. That's what we're thinking of. The Trail Boss has 18s as the base wheel with dirt tracks on it. And I've heard my neighbor has one in our neighborhood, and I can hear him driving down the street. That's how noisy they are. And the truck's a year old. I'm going, gosh, that would just drive me batty. I would immediately change them to a KO2 or a Falcon or a Hankook or something quieter. But again, is it purpose built? So on the 20s that we have here, it comes with a brand new tire from Goodyear. It's a Territory mud terrain. So it's part of the new generation Goodyear truck tire.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you right now, it looks way less aggressive than the Durtrack all terrain. So I'm not sure how they're getting an MT on the side of this thing.
Yeah,
like that makes no sense to me. And now it's quieter than the Durtrack, but it is still noisy. So like today I was driving home, and there's a section of road where I was doing 40 miles an hour on brand new blacktop, and it was silent. In fact, it reminded me how quiet this truck is. GM's done a killer job at managing air around this thing. There's no wind noise. It's just flat out, it's quieter than the Fords and the Rams in most scenarios in terms of wind. They've really gotten that mastered quite well. But all I hear is this tire at that particular speed going whoa, 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 whoa. It was driving me insane. Mm-hmm. And so I do think these tires they are very aggressive. That's a trade-off, though. To the point that if I bought one of these trucks, I would look at, okay, how soon can I change to a quieter off-road tire? There's just, it drives me nuts. But anyways, with that said, I would love to go to our next topic, Craig, which you've worked on, and it's something to do with tires.
It is. So, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the mud terrain, all terrain thing, because that's just a great example of how confusing tires are. Yes, okay, I get it. They're all round. Or like, right, how confusing can they be, right? They're all round and they're made of rubber. I get it. But here's what I mean by this. When it comes to most things in the marketplace, and I'm talking about all segments, I'm talking about cars, electronics, appliances, whatever it is you're trying to buy, you can go research the topic ad nauseum, right? And find almost too much information, and that you use so much that you end up becoming an expert on it.
Sure.
There's YouTube reviews on it. People like us decide, let's do a YouTube channel. Great, just what we need, another YouTube channel, right? Let's do a podcast on it. Great, another podcast.
And here we are. Welcome to Brake Check.
Here we are, welcome to except for tires. The one thing everybody is on every single day is tires.
And by
whether
the way,
you're on a plane, a bus, going an Uber, driving your own car, you are
tires.
on tires at some point during the day.
I wonder. So wait, question real quick on planes. How do they rate their tires? Do they rate them by mileage? Do they rate them by heat cycle? Do they? Because I mean, look, let's be honest. They're driving a mile at a time.
Yeah. So look, and I'm bringing this topic up with complete ignorance. Okay. So please chime in, listeners. Send us an email. Send us some comments. But back to your mud train all train thing. How do you determine what's a mud train all train? Do they just get does the manufacturer just say, it's a mud train? I mean, what does that even mean? I have no idea. I've seen there's highway terrains, there's light trucks, there's all weathers, there's all seasons, there's summer, there's winter, there's there's rally, there's it's unbelievable. So I just the other day, because unfortunately, part of that life thing we talked about earlier is happening. One of the things that's happened in my life is I've been fortunate to buy 3 sets of tires in the past 2 months. And
I'd say all of your tires went at once.
Yeah, basically. So I've researched this, and just in a short amount of time, I'm just going to lift you off some stats here. And I just looked up brands that I've just heard of before. Okay, let's just start with that.
Okay, because you can go go to simpletire.com or tirebuyer.com, and there's 500 brands you've never heard of.
Exactly. That's my problem. So let's just start with the brands I've actually heard of at once or heard of at some point in my life, and that are relatively name brands, and I don't know who makes them because I know certain tire manufacturers make others. So here's an example: Michelin makes Michelin tires. I think that's real easy and easiest for it to follow, right?
Okay, so far this is easy. I'm not sure what you're complaining about.
But they also make BF Goodrich. Not everybody knows that. I mean, most people do. I think that's one of the easier ones to follow, but Michelin makes BF Goodrich. Do you know what country they're based in? Because there's always a lot of people coming, well, that's just a Chinese tire. That's just a whatever tire.
France.
Yeah, it's a French tire. I think most Americans don't know that's a French tire, which who cares, right? Because they're all made all over the place. That's the thing. It's kind of like cars.
I mean, they're tested here. I mean, they've got go to South Carolina. Michelin owns like a whole town.
So I just kind of went through and I looked up just normal brands. 30 different brands that I could think of that I could recognize. Like, oh, yeah, I know that brand. Who makes it? Out of the 30 brands I looked up, there's 14 different manufacturers for those 30 brands.
Oh, my gosh.
It's incredible.
30 labels, but in terms of manufacturing, in terms of corporation, there's 14 corporations driving those 30 brands.
Correct.
Okay.
And then so far, I'm not talking about where these tires are made. I'm just going to talk about where these makers are headquartered in 8 different countries. So
I believe that.
I mean, it's incredible. And here, I don't know. Here's an example for you. Bridgestone. Bridgestone makes Firestone. They make Fusion. They make Dayton.
Oh, geez,
I think most people on that list would think Dayton. That's probably an Ohio tire, right? Most people would think Firestone. Yeah. I think Firestone's. I always thought it was from the Midwest. I just assumed it was up there somewhere. So I know they've had some influence. And maybe they were bought out by Bridgestone over the years. That's the thing. There's been a lot of corporate changes in branding, but they're based in Japan. It's a Japanese company, which is fine. Yeah. But who knows this kind of stuff? Let's see. Let me get you some other fun ones for you. Goodyear. You'll probably know most of these, but Goodyear's a U.S. brand. Mm-hmm. They got a big headquarters out here in Texas. So, of course, obviously they make Goodyear. I think that one's got that one. But then you start going down the list. Douglas. Heard of that one. Kelly, we've heard of that one. Dunlop. I mean, it starts.
These are all the old Sears tires. Back when Sears
pretty much
was a thing. Yeah.
And
Interesting.
then it gets really confusing. And here's just my last example for you. But you've got Pirelli. Do you want to guess who makes Pirelli?
Oh man, I mean, it's Italian, obviously. I think. I might be wrong.
You're wrong. So they were. Now they're made by Kim China, who also makes Armstrong tires, which used to be Italian, which is now headquarters in China. Like, who can keep up with this stuff? It's incredible to me. And when you go out there in the marketplace and try to get the information, it's hard to find.
It is, and you made a whole spreadsheet on this. Maybe we should make this public one day when we get it curated enough, investigated enough. There's another brand. So I've spent some time in my past doing a lot of drifting, and there's a lot of people that run cheap Chinese tires just because the cost per set, right? You're going to burn them off, that kind of stuff. And Hankook was a mainstream tire brand in pro drifting for years.
Mm-hmm.
And they are Chinese, correct?
They are wrong. Do you know what Hankook means?
No.
In Korean?
Oh, they're Korean. That's why they're
It means
good.
Korea.
Okay. Well, wait, why wouldn't it just say Korea instead of...
I don't know. I don't know.
Like when you look at a map, it doesn't say Hankook. It says Korea.
I guess because Americans wouldn't buy it if it said Korea. I don't know.
Okay.
That's be my guess.
So it'd be like instead of calling it America, you call it the States or something like that.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's fine. Well, that makes sense to everything because it's funny because Chinese tires are known to be very cheap, but often have like more polyester belts instead of steel belts, and they're often for like car tires and more than truck tires. This is interesting to me because Kumo, Hankook, Falcon, those used to all be brands that you would go to Discount Tire or Walmart when we were kids to get a tire, or Sam's Club, and they would go, look, I've got this off-brand over here if you want to try it. And now they are all like mainstays. They're all great quality. They're priced actually up there with Michelin and BFG, depending on the tire you're getting. They're not far off from it. Yeah. And it's interesting. And we've sampled these tires over the years in our real lives, and a lot of them are great. I mean, it's interesting. Tires really are so important because they're the only piece of your vehicle touching the ground.
It's the number one performance improvement you can, or maintenance items you can ever do to your car out of all the things you can do.
And I've not met a single person that's not a gearhead that enjoys the process. Every person,
because you can't find any information on it. And
it's like taking the trash out that costs $1,000 for most people. Mm-hmm. Because they go, I had to buy tires again.
Yeah,
I bought them 4 years ago. I got to buy them again now. It's like, well, yeah, you've driven 100,000 miles. Of course you got to buy tires. Like, it's amazing that you made it this far, you know? And you and I go, ooh, that's exciting. What'd you go with? And then the other person always goes, I don't know. They're the cheapest ones over there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just that's the cycle. And
I'm glad you mentioned the Falcons and how they used to be a no-name brand, kind of cheap, but now they're just as much as the name brand, and because they're just as good or better, and that's why.
Right.
Which, by the way, Falcons made by Sumitomo, and when I think of Sumitomo tires, I think of a cheaper tire. They're the ones that make the Falcons. I think of anyways.
Which, by the way, I ran Sumitomos way back in my early Mustang days, and they were terrible back then. Right. And now they own Falcon, which I've had wonderful Falcons every time. They've been some of the best tires. I'm like, what is going on?
and it gets so tricky because most people think Goodyear, like Goodyear. They've heard that brand. They know it's got to be a better brand.
Right.
But they literally make some Walmart specials that are just so cheap, exclusive to Walmart. Look, if you need a cheap tire, it's a good cheap tire, but like it's as bad as some of those cheap Chinese tires you talked about previously.
Right.
And then some of the brands you've never heard of that you think are those are not. So it's
very misleading.
So hard to follow. And there's the reviews out there. There's not reviews out there. Like the only person that like consistently does reviews unbiased is Consumer Reports, and they're behind a paywall, and nobody likes that. And outside of that, nobody reviews tires hardly. So
Tire Rack does, but it's always the same players. It's always Continental, Bridgestone, Michelin, BF Goodrich, and maybe Hankook.
Yep.
And it's always Michelin is number 1, Hankook's number 4. Like it's predetermined. And it's always on the BMW 3 Series, and it's not particularly helpful because.
But you're right though. That's the closest thing to finding anything though.
It is, but but even then, that size might not be applicable to your car. It's really hard. It's hard to go find.
It really is. And then the next thing you've got is like owner reviews on like Amazon or on Tire Rack, and I find the owner reviews on tires to be almost worthless.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. Because someone's like, oh, this is the best tire I've ever had. I can't hear or feel a thing. And then you go buy that tire, and you go, wait, there's no sidewall, and it wallows everywhere. Yeah, it's terrible. He didn't mention it doesn't handle for crap, you know?
It is hard to get objective reviews on tires. You think it would be an easier thing to get, but maybe someone, look, we need your help. Rate Check needs your help. If you're listening and you know of a place that does a good objective review of tires, please, please, please tell us.
Absolutely. We'll share that
out. We can't find it. Anyways, that's my rant. I just wanted to mention that. It's kind of crazy. I've spent way too much time that I'd like to researching them lately, and it's hard to find stuff. So, but
that's funny. That's one of those topics that you and I can nerd out for 3 days on, and our listeners are like, please move on. Please.
Yeah, right. Enough tire talk. You know what? We could just go round and round on that. So let's just move on. We got some car news. There's been more than this, but this is the most recent. So let's just talk about the most recent. And that is, and it's actually pretty funny because I think there was a patent released by the United States that blew the cover on this.
I heard that too, yeah.
Yeah. So as we know, Subaru Outback, they came out with a Wilderness Edition, and they're striking on the whole overland thing, the off-road thing, and now it's just blowing up right now. And so
Right.
basically, they take one of their models and they put some Oh, speaking of tires, they put tires. They put all-terrain tires
They
on it.
do.
They put an additional skid plate on it. They supposedly beef up the CVT, and they put some graphics packages on it. And all of a sudden, this thing looks like a good off-road capable car SUV thing.
It looks like an Outback that someone modified for Instagram, except you just go buy it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. It looks pretty cool to me. So.
Yeah, it's awesome. No, I don't mean that negatively. I mean that someone's made this thing cool, and they've improved their hipster scale, their score completely. It's Anyways, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. That's
no, you're fine. So
it's a trend.
So there's a lot of talk about what's the next vehicle going to be that's going to get the Wilderness Edition treatment, the package, the trim, and a lot of most of the media, I would say, was projecting and predicting the Crosstrek, and that is not what happened. And the U.S. Patent Office blew it with the Subaru Forester as who was getting it, and lo and behold, that was made official, I think, today, actually.
Yep.
It's going to be the Subaru Forester Wilderness Edition, and I don't know if you want to talk about some of the specs, but if not, I can. But
yeah, well, I do want to ask you a question because I don't know the answer to this. Does the Forester come with the XT turbo engine that the Outback has? I don't think it does.
I think that's a negative, Ghost Rider.
Okay, if it did, that would be a game changer for this because the Forester's pretty big now. Like it looks just like the previous generation, but it's massive. Like
you know what though? It only weighs like 3,400 pounds.
That's impressive. That's going to help it everywhere, off road, on road, everything.
Yeah.
And we drove the Wilderness was not out yet, but we drove the XT with the StarTex, weatherproof seats and stuff.
Onyx Edition.
Onyx Edition. Thank you, Onyx Edition. Outback, was it last year or earlier this year? I think it was last year. We loved it. The thing was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And it was still a CVT and it had good punch. I liked it a lot. In fact, my wife and I were shopping for vehicles at the time, and it actually was in the realm of conversation for a while. Subaru makes great stuff. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. You buy a Subaru, you die in a Subaru because you like it so much. You keep buying them until you actually die on this planet. You just never leave the brand. There are people who are so loyal to them. This one's interesting to me because it has a 1/2-inch lift. And it has a gear change. That's the biggest thing I realized was there was an actual mechanical change in the gear ratio. It went from a 370 final drive to a 411. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
Do you know what size tires on there? I don't know what size the Wilderness comes with.
It's a 17-inch. I think it's a 225/60. I'm not sure.
Okay, so it's probably like a 28, 29-inch tire. That's pretty good. I mean, for a car, it was really a car. That's awesome. That's going to do pretty well. So I will say I do have some concerns, Craig.
Okay.
The last year at the truck rodeo, I drove a Crosstrek Subaru and took it on the off-road trail, and the CVT reared its head is what happened.
Yep.
And this is a known thing. Some people call it transmission slip. Without a low-speed transfer case and without direct drive gearing, you can get to a situation where the clutch meshing or CVT mechanism just slips perpetually. You go up to a slope, you go to give it power, the engine is screaming, and the power is not actually hitting the tire. And that happened to me multiple times. It drove me batty. And I immediately went, man, this thing has such an outdoorsy reputation. People are going to struggle with this. And I don't care if you put BFG KO2s on it and rally tires and make it look cool. It still can't climb the little rock hill. So that's a problem. So I'm excited about the gear ratio change. I think that's going to be what makes it work for it. Because otherwise, it's, as far as CVTs go, it's a very agreeable transmission. I actually like it quite a bit on the road.
Yeah.
I'm just worried that it actually has chops to back it up because that CVT slip is a real problem once you get in the dirt.
Yeah, I will say this. I'm with you. These are not rock crawlers. These are gravel road, machines, and I think they're going to be great at that. I'm with you. I think this gear ratio change should definitely help it off road. That first gear being better.
Yeah,
that should definitely help a lot. And supposedly also instead of 7-speed simulated gears, it has 8. So
whoa!
I always get so confused by that, but because I don't know why.
It sounds like they've paid
infinite.
attention to it.
But anyways, the other thing it does have though that may help it, which I don't know, it won't help with the transmission, but it does have an additional, the Wilderness Edition, has an additional external oil cooler. So, you know, it's a little one other thing that makes it a little heavier duty and a little more, should handle some beefier stuff. But I don't know. I'm with you. I'm curious. I think it's a great idea by Subaru. I think the other genius about it is it's a package that doesn't cost a whole lot. They don't make this thing really. It's $33,000. $33,000.
Oh, that's not bad.
For the Wilderness Edition. It weighs 3,400 pounds. It's not going to be a heavy vehicle. It has these off-road chops that you can just go do your whatever thing with it. That's pretty cool. I mean, that's a neat car.
$33,000 makes it cheaper than the likes of a Bronco Sport or a Cherokee Trailhawk. I'll argue those two options have more off-road credit in my mind because there's not a CVT situation.
Agreed.
They have an actual direct drive gear.
Absolutely. But who actually takes those off-road anyways?
That's a good point. The Forster's going to have the approach and departure angles comparable to the other two. It's going to be a very spacious, agreeable interior. It's quiet and comfortable and drives quite well, honestly.
Yeah.
The reality is, for these soft rotors, most people aren't hitting enough incline for it to be a problem. So it's probably going to be okay either way.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I don't know. Interesting. I think the only downside it has is I think it has combined highway is 26 in the Wilderness Edition because once you lift it and put beefier tires on it, the mileage goes down. That's just what happens with cars. So,
and the gear ratio change for sure.
And the gear ratio, I mean, those three things hurt its fuel mileage. So that's probably, to me, that's a little disappointing to get that small of a vehicle, car-based, to get only 26, which I guess is still way better than, a 4Runner that gets 16 or 17. So I'll give it that. But
look,
anyway.
You said the same thing about the Bronco Sport, and I think it was like 26 as well. Wasn't it really close to that?
Yeah, I think it's the same. Yeah, pretty similar. Yeah,
so it's kind of on par.
True. Okay, Brian. Let's go to a segment we haven't touched on in a while, and that is Dent Stories. And that is let's remind the audience what a Dent Story is. A Dent Story is, and we've all had them. Maybe you were driving, maybe you were riding with your buddy. Who knows? But something happens. And next thing you know, there's a dent on your car or someone else's car. And, well, it's not fun at first, but when some time passes and you look back on it, there could sometimes be some funny stuff or just some interesting things about the story. So, I don't know if you want to kick this one off. It's up to you. Do you want to go first?
How about you kick it off? You lead it.
Okay. I'm going to kick it off, Brian. We're going to go back in the Wayback Machine. I was just a wee lad. In fact, it was a good time of my life. You know why it was so good?
Because I wasn't there yet?
That's exactly right. You were not there yet. You did not exist. Things were good in my life. It was just me and Dad and our dog, a yellow lab. Sadly, I don't even remember the dog's name. That's how long ago it was.
Oh, that's how special it was, Craig.
Yeah. But here's what I do remember. I remember it was a 1963 Imperial convertible, blue. And I don't remember how long Dad had it, but he had it for a little bit. And we were driving down to Cleburne. I don't know what we were doing in Cleburne, but we were in Cleburne. Had the dog with us.
Probably going to look at another car, if we're honest.
Probably. Very good point. But lo and behold, we're driving along, and all of a sudden, Dad's freaking out a little bit. I'm like, "What's up, Dad?" He's like, "Brakes ain't working." But it's okay, son. We've got emergency brakes. Back in the old days, in this particular car, you didn't have the little handle in the middle that goes and pulls the rear drums. You didn't have the step on the side and it releases.
The foot pedal?
You didn't have the button you pushed and it may do something, it may not. You had the actual chrome handle that you pulled and ratcheted back and then turned down to put it back and release it later. So, no problem. He comes down the street, blows through a stop sign, pulls the emergency brake easily to see what happens. Ruh-roh. Nothing happens. So I'm like, "Well, Dad, so what's up?" He goes, "Yeah, we don't have any brakes." I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's probably not good." And we're picking up some pretty good steam because these cars are heavy.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Don't worry about it. We got it." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm like, "Man, how's Dad going to get out of this one? This is pretty good." So next thing you know, we're blazing into a parking garage. The only parking garage that must exist in Cleburne, too, by the way. I drove to Cleburne now, and I don't know where this thing existed. But anyways.
I was just thinking that. Where was this garage at?
He finds his parking garage, and we blast up the ramp of the thing to get into it because, well, you couldn't slow down. So we blast up into it, and I'm like, "Okay." He goes, I go, "What are we going to do, Dad?" He goes, "Don't worry, the wall's going to stop us." I go, "What?"
So the what?
The wall is going to stop us, the concrete wall. So we're barreling towards the wall. But the whole reason he did the parking garage is because going uphill, he was hoping to slow us down a little bit. So going uphill slowed us down a little bit. I don't know if we went 1 or 2 floors. I'm not sure. We got to where we couldn't go up anymore, and we were slowing down a tad, enough that he felt comfortable enough running into the wall to stop it. So right before we get to the wall, dog's in the middle seat. I'm in the passenger seat. Dad's in the driver's seat. He throws me and the dog down into the floorboard because guess what? There's not in this car. Seatbelts, airbags. There's a metal dash. I mean, maybe about the most dangerous thing you could be driving.
Yeah, and when there's a giant parking brake handle as well, that's take your eyeball out.
So what it does have is gobs of room in the floorboard. So he throws me down on the floorboard, and me and the dog, and we do crash into this wall. We bump it pretty good, but honestly, not too bad. Okay, and good enough that it stops it. He's able to bring it to a stop and get it in park.
Put it in gear, yeah.
Yeah, put it in gear finally without destroying the transmission because he didn't want to destroy the transmission either, I guess. I don't know. And then we, this is, again, because it was such a long time ago, we do a nice little jolly hike down to the payphone and call Mom to come get us. And she goes, why? And we go, well, because we crashed the car into a wall. And we sat there with the dog and waited for Mom to pick us up in the Plymouth Volare. And anyways, life is good. That's the Dent story. Not every day you crash a car into a wall to stop it. But I tell you this story to remind the audience how reliable cars are these days. And thank goodness they don't make them like they used to. So
thank goodness.
There's my story.
I want to add one thing to this because Dad told me this story one time too. So I'm going to give you his version of it.
Okay.
From ages ago. Which is everything's exactly that, except that before the crash, he looks over and you have your chin on the dashboard.
The metal dash.
On the metal dash. And you're looking at like, ooh, what wall is he talking about?
It was an exciting trip, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. And he had visions of your teeth being busted out and threw you on the floor like right before impact because he didn't want you to get back up.
Because he didn't discuss that. He just pushed him down. Like, wow,
he just pushed you. Like it wasn't like, hey, son, when I tell you jump down, it was like, bam, he just threw you and hit the wall. Now, I'm a little upset when I hear this story because, one, I never met the car. And in fact, I never saw a picture of this car. But I have seen pictures of the Volare, and that makes me super jealous because I had a minivan, and you had this badass wagon with wood paneling. It's not fair. So, just saying.
Yep.
Okay. My turn. I'm going to hit one up real quick, and I've actually changed my mind on which one I'm going to do. So, once upon a time, I worked for a furniture store, and I had my, actually the best man for my wedding was working with me there at the time, and we were making a out-of-town delivery. It was it was not far from where you live now, Craig. It was about an hour south of where you live at right now, and I worked at the store for a while, and we had a Chevy Express panel van as our delivery vehicle. Imagine a U-Haul with a, box van on the back and a tall floor, right? It has a wooden floor and all this stuff. And it was bought from the Chevy house in town there and all that kind of stuff. And it had, 80, 90,000 miles, something like that. So, and we, of course, abuse the crap out of this thing at all times. It's a dually. We found out how to do burnouts with it and basically had the ancestor of the transmission that the Trail Boss has and everything else. It's just, things haven't changed that much. And moral of the story, we were making this delivery out of town, and we were loaded to the hilt. This was a big order. It was a free delivery. That's how you know it was a big order, because we were driving 2 hours one way, and we weren't charging for delivery. That's a big sale. So this thing's loaded up. The furniture had been on back order. I mean, it took like a month and a half to get everything in to make the run out there. So long story short, we're leaving town. It is the end of the day. It's the closest thing to rush hour you have in Granbury, Texas. And going across the bridge on the lake, there's a traffic jam exiting onto 144. And I look up and hear a tire squeal.
Uh-oh.
And I see a Jeep Wrangler in front of me. Soft top. And in the rear window, it says baby on board.
Oh, no.
And I could not have stood on those brakes harder than anything in my life. I was like, dear Lord, do not hit that Jeep. Do not hit that Jeep. And I can see the car seat in the back seat.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I am standing on this thing. ABS is kicked in. It's, there's 6 wheels on the ground. It's making some noise. And I bring this thing down to a halt. And I look up and I can't see the back of the Jeep. I'm that close to it.
Oh, no.
Now, my co-pilot and good friend Chris is sitting next to me here. And I look over at him and he's just looking at the water at the lake. Like not paying attention, like doesn't realize we just had a panic stop. And then I look up and the Jeep rolls off. Drives away with no damage. Okay. Whew, sigh of relief.
Good work.
But it doesn't roll very far. It rolls like a foot or two. And I hear tire squealing again. Now, at this point, we are at a complete stop.
Oh, no.
And I know it's coming from behind me. Whatever it is, it sounds heavy. I don't know what it is, but it's not going to be pleasant. And I'm still looking over at Chris, and I tense up, and pow! We get hit. Slammed. I look over, he's like a crash dummy, like limp noodle, up into the dashboard. Like, remember, his hat flew off his head. He flew all the way up. There's no airbag, but it had this like giant rubber pad. And he bounced off, no big deal. I lock my elbows and tense up because I hear this thing coming and feel a shockwave of what is referred to as whiplash, I think, down my arm, up my neck, and then ties into my spine somewhere. And really unpleasant feeling, right? Now, keep in mind, I'm 17, 18 years old at this point. And adamant not to have whiplash, right? Because people that have whiplash are just insurance fraud, right? That's the misnomer. And I get out of the vehicle, and it is a 1-ton GMC truck, dually.
Man.
And it has slammed into our van, and its radiator is wrapped around our frame rail at this point.
Great.
And we can't get the driver out.
Oh, no.
So we actually, the window was already broken, so we just knocked it out and pulled him out that way, but the door wouldn't open. And so anyways, the Jeep in front of us departs. I don't know if the kid was even in the back seat, but that situation was avoided. It was a 2-car accident, just the two of us. Moral of the story, we can't get the vehicle separated. The police show up. He's doing a traffic report. He does the whole thing. Here's the highlight of this whole story. The cop leans on the rail to do his paperwork, almost loses balance, and almost falls into the lake. And in the process, his ticket book flies open, and all of these handwritten tickets fly off into the lake. Had to be 50 tickets.
Man, you just saved 50 people.
Totally. And guess what? I wasn't in the book. I was like, dude, I hope I'm in there. Please. So anyways, moral of the story, the truck's frame was not bent. Our bumper wasn't even bent, but there are spacers between the frame and the box of the truck, and those spacers shot out. Wow. And we replaced them with regular wood and went our way. The guy behind us went to the hospital in ambulance, but was okay. So good. That's the good news, and that's our dent story. It was actually not a dent for us, but the vehicle behind us.
Well, and that's the beauty of dent stories. They're always entertaining. You don't know which way they're going to head. They never go as planned, of course. And,
ever.
Lots of fun. So we, unfortunately, or fortunately, we have many more to go choose from down the road. So
yeah, we do.
Anyways, but well, with that, that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to episode 15. Stay tuned for more. Go to BrakeCheckShow.com for more goodies and info and car reviews and all that fun stuff. And what else, Bryan?
That's it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.